It's late in the day, I've done a couple of repair jobs, the shed's nice and warm, we've lit the fire, but we still have time to get a box from the emergency storage shed and see what treasures we can discover. Hey guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. I've committed to getting one box or one item or at least something out of that emergency storage shed every week. I've been a bit crook lately, still sound a bit croaky. That's not going to stop us. Let's go and have a look. Okay, if you remember from last week, we have made a bit of room. It's starting to open up here now nicely. We have a few more milk crates to go there. I did point at this little box with the old headlights last week. We didn't get back to it, so let's take that today and maybe that other milk crate, and that will open up a bit more space. And then we better start from the top again. Otherwise, we're going to have a bit of an avalanche of I don't know what. So, all right, let's get these two from the bottom first. Coco's just come in for a look. What do you think, Coco? Hello? What do you reckon? The only box that Coco's interested in is the box with food in it. And there's none of that in here. I'll go and get the crate. Well, there's some good weight in here too. Looks like some old metal stuff. That should be interesting. Let's start with this little tub. And we know there's a couple of old headlights here. I'm not sure what age they would be. Maybe 1940s or 50s. Could be off a truck. They're quite cute. That one's nice. It looks very rusty in the reflector inside, but at least it's got its original glass. The other one is missing the glass and it's a lot more rusty. I think I'd put these aside years ago for making lamps. I reckon they'd be a really cool desk lamp. I've seen them made into lamps before. It would take a fair bit to work out a base for them that's sort of fitting with the style, and of course running lights up, wiring up to it and having a switch somewhere. I'm never going to get round to doing this. Well, at least not in the near future. So I think I'm going to sell these. And if I ever find time to make some desk lamps out of headlights, I'll just buy some headlights and see how I go. So I'm going to sell these. I think we'll get $20 for this one. Probably just 10 for this one, seeing so we don't have the glass. I think that will allow them to sell pretty quickly. I'm not even going to really clean them up. I'll just wipe the dust off them. So that'll be a quick turnaround, and I don't have to put them aside for a project. They won't clutter up my shed, and it'll be $30 back in the kitty. We'll do a list again at the end of this. I think we'll get to our 100 pretty easily this time. There's a couple of cool things in that crate. All right, I didn't know what was in the bottom here. We have a large gate valve. It will be brass. I think that's a brass fitting. An adapter for poly pipe, I think. Now, if the gate valve actually works, you really just need to see if the gate opens inside. Yeah, it's working. I think that's going to be worth more as a tap, as a valve, rather than brass. It would probably weigh about a kilo, so maybe $7. I reckon I'll get 10 for it in the shop pretty easily. So, yeah, we'll put it down as $10 as it is, I think. Better than scrap. As for that collar, that can go in the brass. I don't think I need these bits. Okay, we have a magnetron from a microwave, and I do have a box of these somewhere. When I had to pack up the backyard of the shop, I think I had about 20 or 30 microwaves. And I scrapped them all out very quickly, just took the transformers out, took the rest out to the transfer station, but I did keep the magnetrons because I want the magnets. Now, there is some scrap metal value in here, aluminium plates, there is some copper in the magnetron. I'm not going to worry so much about that. I might put a few aside and do a bit of a time trial and see if it's worthwhile, but I get $5 each magnet through the shop. There's 2 magnets in here, so there's $10 worth me getting those magnets out. They're pretty easy to get out. So maybe I'll put this aside, and when I find the other box lot, we'll do a little time trial on these and see what value we can get out of them. The only other thing we have in here is a little transformer power pack. The cord hasn't been cut. It actually has a plug to go in there. It's 24 volts AC. That's not something I don't think I would use. It's not a switch mode power supply. It actually has a decent sized transformer in it. I can feel the weight, and I usually just crack these with a hammer and get a transformer out for scrap metal. That's it in that box. Okay, this crate. Now I can see some hinges in the top, some nice old T-hinges, and they're quite decorative actually. They're a little bit nicer than the normal hinges you get. They've got a cotton reel type effect on the hinge part. They're looks like they were green, or whatever they were screwed to probably had a green wall, and it was a cream on the door. So there's at least two. I think there's three of them. Oh, that one's seized up. Well and truly seized. But we have two that are operational. Bit rusty. It looks like it might have had cream paint over the whole lot of it. I'm not going to go to the trouble of cleaning those up. Someone else can do it. I think I'll put $20 on the three, and they should sell pretty quickly at that. And someone else can try and free up the seized one. Okay, we also have some sheep shears. These are pretty common. They're normally Sheffield made English. I think these ones are. So, yeah, look, they would clean up okay. Again, I'm not going to go to the trouble. Someone else can clean them up. I don't think it's going to add much to the value. I usually get $10 each for them, whether they're clean or dirty. People use them for trimming around the garden. They're quite handy for that, of course. So, yeah, even just a decorative item to hang on the wall. Bit of old farming memorabilia, $10 on those. Oh, look at this. This is a garden scratcher that's been modified. I did this many years ago, I reckon about 30 years ago, when I was out actively bottle digging, and I put much more aggressive claws on it so that I could scrape through the ash and the rubble when I was looking for bottles. Probably a bit of overkill. I don't know, I was just mucking around in the workshop at the time. I don't think it's got much value. Maybe I can put it in the shop for $5, but it might be pushing it. Might end up in the $1 bin. I don't think we'll mark that one down. Okay, some heavy stuff. There's a cast iron wheel. It looks like it's one of those, like a train wheel. It's probably a small wagon or cart, maybe like on a mining track or something. There's only the one, so I think that's pretty much just an ornament. I don't expect anyone's going to use one of these wheels. What will we get for that? Oh, well, we get at least $5. I've got a wheelbarrow full of old farming cogs and things at the moment, so I'll put it in with that at $5 a pick. Should sell pretty quickly. Now, the real heavy thing in here is rather interesting. Oh, before we go on to that, we do have... now that's part of some old scales, I think. I think these are off Steelyard scales. Probably could just put $5 on it as a nice decorative hook, but anyone that recognises it from the scales may indeed buy it as a spare. But yeah, I'll just call it a vintage hook, and we'll put $5 on that. So that's the end of the crate. We'll get this off and we'll have a look at this big heavy thing. Now, it's rather interesting that we turned this up today, because just last week, or only a few days ago, Ian Matthews in the UK, if any of you follow Ian, turned up one of these as well. It's a floorboard clamp. They come in different styles. They usually come in a pair of two. A pair is two. I've only got the one, and I think Ian only had one too. And what it does is this part here on this one clamps onto the joist of your floor. And I've got a bit of board here somewhere. I've got a pretend joist. So this clamps on your joist, like so. And if you're reflooring your floor, you've got another joist over there. Your floorboards are running this way. And with the tongue and groove boards, you need to squash them together so that you get a nice tight fit. And by cranking this handle, it pushes this plunger out. I think the mechanism's a little seized. It kind of works. And by pushing this plunger out, it squashes all the boards tight, so the tongue and grooves are nice and tight. And you would have one on this bit, on this joist, and maybe one on the next joist. And you could even use a few of them if you're doing a big room. So that's what it is. It's a floorboard clamp or press. It's a shame we've only got the one, but I think I'd still get $30 for that pretty easily. They seem to sell quite well, and people that still do floorboards usually like to have a selection of them, because, as I said, if you're doing a big floor, the more of these clamps you get, the more even the flooring job becomes. So yeah, it's a good find. I'm not going to do anything special with that. I'm not going to free it up. It kind of works. It's a little bit tight in the thread here, but someone else will fix that up. I'll just dust it off basically, and I'll put $30 on it. Ooh, nice and shiny. I just gave this a buff up on the wire wheel just to make it a bit more presentable. It only took a couple of minutes and it looks magnificent. Works well. I did take these fittings off the end because they're not standard to it. They obviously suited a poly pipe connector. That should easily sell now for $10. We'll make a small pile of brass. We'll weigh that up in a tick just to see how much is there. And I figured we might as well process everything in this video too. So I'll get the magnets out. I'll show you how I get these apart. But we will, in the future, do a bit of a price check on whether they're worth scrapping. I just want to get the magnets out at this stage. And we have to knock that power pack apart. When I say knock it apart, I just mean hit it with a hammer. These are really easy to break open. That's pretty well, it's like cracking eggs. All right, we need one more. So the case just comes open like that. Whoops, we lose that. We'll pick that up later. We can access the transformer and snip the wires. And there we have quite a heavy little chunky transformer. They add up to weight very quickly. If you're so inclined, you can save the little bits of wire, or you can take the brass pins out. That's up to you guys. I just throw that in my e-waste bucket. And as far as getting the magnets out of the magnetron, usually you can just pry the steel casing apart. It's just got 4 lugs, one in each corner. I haven't done one for a while. I forget which way to twist it. I think if we get a screwdriver just down the side, we can bend it out pretty easily. There we go. That's all we need. They don't take much when you get them in the right position. Okay, back to the bench. Okay, believe it or not, I did actually just film taking apart this magnetron to show you, and it didn't record. I guess probably because I didn't film it, I forgot to push the red button. Regardless of that, we will do a scrap out magnetron session once I find the box of them that I've got somewhere. But needless to say, I only really wanted the magnets here. There's only a few cents worth of shred. I generally put this complete unit in dirty aluminium. The center hub does have some copper, but I'm not getting that out. Years ago on older microwaves, you had to be careful of this insulator. It actually had beryllium in it. It was beryllium oxide, but that was a long, long time ago. Modern microwaves are perfectly safe, but I'm just throwing that in the dirty aluminium. There's a little bit of number 2 copper. We'll talk about that in a future video. I got my magnets out, really easy to get to, and I get $5 each for these. They're quite powerful. They're handy for putting in your workshop to put tools on, for picking up a whole heap of nails if you tip the container on the floor. All sorts of good uses. I actually sell them through the shop quicker than I can accumulate them. So that's good. $10 there. Worth picking up. Magnetrons purely for the, well, microwaves purely for the magnets. This was also in the magnetron, a little bit of a brass filter, so that can go with our brass. We're only got, I don't know, 50 cents or something there. The little transformer's only going to be 10 cents or 20 cents or something. I'm not going to weigh those up in this video. But we will get to our 100, I think. I think we're going to go just past it. Let's get the notepad out. So our total for this little box of treasures is $115. So we cleared our $100 mark. I didn't allow anything for these scrap bits or indeed that little garden scratcher. So we'll get a few dollars for all that. So we've cleared 100. We've got another box and a bit unpacked and more room in our emergency storage shed. So nothing terribly exciting this week, guys, but we did get some good stuff to sell that will sell quickly. It's another, as I said, some more boxes out of the shed. We're continuing with our commitment. I'm pleased I got this done this week because I could hardly talk the other day and I'm still quite croaky, but we got it done. Nothing's going to stop us. I'm committed to this cause. And 115 bucks in the kitty. Shouldn't take long to sell, as I said. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.